We are back again, covering another round of ADP, covering round 12. We're going to be talking about Kodai Senga and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. You can find me on X at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you may listen. And most importantly, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on all podcast platforms. It really helps out the show. And guys, Dom's not here today. We're deciding to split it up with the new year coming up and down. But we're going to be in full swing every day. Not every day, but every episode with the two of us together coming up in these coming weeks. We're about to hit the peak of the off season, and hence why we're covering ADP. Yes, it's early ADP. Yes, it's everything is going to change in a blink of an eye come February 13th through 15th, whenever pitchers and catchers report this year. But it's the perfect time to kind of get yourself familiarized with players. There's very few that are going to jump up more than a round. So we'll highlight those as ADP shifters as we get closer to, regular season and such. But, this is a great exercise. Get familiar with the rounds. Do this, when we get closer to, we're not going to do it on the show, but you should do this. Get familiar with every round. Look at ADP, look at who you're targeting, who you're avoiding in each and every round to kind of give you the best scenarios and best possibilities to kind of form your best possible team, essentially. So, not being blindsided and having a plan each and every round and a target in each every round really make the difference of, winning your league, essentially. You can't lose your league at the draft, but you can't win your league at the draft, but you definitely can lose it. So with that being said, let's hop in and kind of get going here, essentially. Like I mentioned in the cold open, we're talking about Kodai Senga of the New York Mets. Now, with Kodai, obviously he went down in 2023 with the Deej, and unfortunately couldn't come back till mid-season. We waited a long time for him to come back to get one start, and then unfortunately be shut down again. He did look sharp in that one start during the regular season. He went 5 innings, got 9 Ks, had a 3.38 ERA with a .56 WHIP, looking like his old self. Then you look into what he did in the playoffs, and it was kind of ugly. Came in relief mode, which may not be his thing, but got lit up pretty well. But I'm not going to hold that against him. Maybe he was still working on it. Maybe he was still adjusting. That maybe there was adjustments made during the shutdown that kind of threw off the awkwardness. But I think now 2 years removed from the TJ, I think is going to be really pristine and really make a difference. Usually it's about 18 months when a pitcher is really fully healed and back to their normal self. Well, Kodai Senga has now surpassed that, obviously, and I think that we're going to have a really strong season. I actually have Kodai Senga ranked pretty nicely high, actually. If we go in there, I believe I have Kodai Senga is ranked at 23 overall at starting pitching for me. I think he's going to be great. Honestly, if he played last year and he, did exactly what I think he's going to do this year, he probably would have been a top 10 pick. Senga has all the possibilities in the world in terms of upside. You look at what he did in 2023, 166 innings pitched, 202 strikeouts, a 2.98 ERA with a WHIP of, 1.22, which, the WHIP's a little too high for me, but at the same time, I think that'll come down. And I think this year, and maybe not this year, but the following year, absolutely. Senga is going to be a force this year. I think he's going to come back with vengeance. He's a very proud man, and I think he's going to want to, take back the misgivings of what happened in 2024 and come back with a really strong thing. So I think he's coming at a serious value. I think he's one of the few players that actually will skyrocket once they start seeing him on the mound in spring. He'll probably get into round 8, if I'm not mistaken. He'll be one of the few that truly skyrocket up. But if he doesn't, this is going to be a steal getting him as your SP4 essentially. So, keep an eye on his draft price, but I'm all about it. But let's move on. So about Shea Langeliers of the, I almost said Oakland, but Los Angeles Athletics, which is wild. I really hope they change that team name. That'd be even better. But anyway, he had a, how do I put this? An okay year for a catcher, I guess. 482 at bats, 58 runs, 18 doubles, two triples, 29 bombs, 80 ribs, and batted 224. So like the power is really nice, and actually the ribs are actually pretty surprising. And the things that suck is obviously runs and batting average. But here's the thing: I think he actually has some upside. I think he's going to also be a riser in my rankings because with Langeliers, that power is actually like pretty dominating. And if you don't know anything about the new Vegas stadium, they're going from a big major league park in Oakland to now like this AAA park, which has a really short porch. So now you're going to take this average exit velocity of 91.3 miles an hour with a guy that barrels 12.8% of the time, creates hard contact 44% of the time, and has a sweet launch angle. Um, you know, and put him in this park, he might have over 40 home run upside. I hope that he just gets more, playing time. Like the thing is, like you look at, he's treated like a regular catcher where, he doesn't play every single game. He plays about 137 games this last year, 135 the year before. Hopefully he can get into the, 550 batting at bats, and we could see something really special out of him. The team is a little bit better too. You got the Butlers, you got name is escaping me, but and the Rookers. But you know, I think that with those three there, and then hopefully some other guys getting the call, can kind of make a run for it, and kind of hopefully produce in the run category to get him driven in. Also, a matter of where he bats in the lineup too, which will also affect not only the at bats but also his counting stats as well. But I think Langeliers, if he is able to put in a full season and get, like I would say, in a little bit over the 500 at bats, we're gonna see something real crazy from him. Honestly, he's going up in my rankings. I already have him at 7 at the position. I might move him up to 6 and possibly even 5 just because of the park and the power factor. And, if we get 40 home runs from our catcher, and if his batting average isn't up to par, it is what it is, truthfully. I'll take that from my catcher. It's a serious, serious advantage going in, and this is a solid price. And I think that this price will probably stick, if not fall. So Shea Langeliers in round 12, I actually think is a steal. So let's move on. Let's talk about Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman, of course, the year Dom and I really, kind of, buy in, it kind of fails. Him and the Blue Jays last year just had a rough year. I mean, yes, the bright spots were like Vladdy and things like that, but he kind of had a really rough year. Yes, I know he started off the year hurt, and that definitely played in a part to it too. I'm not going to downplay that. Through his 31 innings, he had 31 starts, 181 innings, 162 strikeouts, a 3.83 ERA with a WHIP of 1.22. So like, yes, he was able to stay under the 4, and even his FIP is reflecting a little bit better at 377. But like, it just wasn't like all pretty. He had to get back to it. Like there was things, and it wasn't consistent either. So like, it was like, hey, I blew up. It kind of looked like almost like a NOLA season. Whereas like you look at 2023, where like he had a 316 ERA through 185 innings and batted in, had 237 strikeouts and a WHIP of 117. Like that's a way better season. Do I think he could return to it? Maybe some reminiscence of it. Maybe I have to move him up a little bit in terms of my rankings. I have him pretty buried, but it just all didn't look pretty at all. Like you look at like all the underlying stats. xERA was at 471. His X batting average was 257. Fastball velocity, was, well, let's see here. Actually, I want to, before I even speak on it, was it down about a whole mile per hour? Hopefully, he can get that back up. Hopefully, it was more of sitting on the injury and things like that, because I think he had a shoulder injury. The average exit velocity was up at 90.2 miles an hour. He got guys to chase about 29% of the time, but wasn't creating the whiffs or striking guys out. We saw the walks respective, but that's pretty much the same. But allowing guys to barrel almost 10% of the time, allowing hard contact at 42.4% of the time, and not producing ground balls all add up to things that just, aren't a great outcome. His fastball last year had a batting average of 243. This year was a 277. He leaned on that pitch 52% of the time, an extra 52.8% of the time, and that was 2% higher than last year. Then you look at his split finger, which he relied on 33% of the time this year, had a batting average of 169, which was fantastic, which was better than the previous year. He should have thrown that more. But, the slider, was actually better this year too. So there was improvements also on the other pitches, but the fastball was the biggest significant one. And let's just hope that things kind of course correct and he can kind of be back. But he's also not a spring chicken either. He's 33, going to be 34. And, you got to look at it like this. are we going to see a resurgence at age 34? Or are we going to see a full blown breakdown? That's the decision you're gonna have to make. That's what everybody's gonna be making when coming to drafting him. So, we'll see what coming up. Coming up next, we're gonna be talking about Mr. Nico Hoerner, where to draft him. Is the draft price fair? Are we gonna get butchered? We'll find out that and more coming up next. Okay, and we are talking about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscription you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? I've done that. That definitely happened to me. Like it was not fun. I've had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. That Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. Thank God. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and help you lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even your goals that you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and have saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. So for me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. Obviously, it's used to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, when there's the goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/locked on. And introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Guys, look, you're going to want to win your leagues. The only way to do that is to get our rankings. Also to get all of our extended, sleepers, breakout busts lists, and so much more. Plus, you'll be able to ask us questions. The only way you can do that is on Subtext. We'll answer a couple questions here and there in the comments, but like personalized, in-depth conversations where we can go back and forth all day long. You're only going to be able to get the Subtext at minimal cost. You get a free 2 weeks. Try it out. Links in the description below. But all right, let's get back into it. Let's start talking down and start breaking the other half of this thing. I only got through 3 names. I want to go through a little bit faster now. So Nico Hoerner, playing for those Cubbies, and quite honestly, man, like, he had an all right season, a little bit on the slow start. I'll break down the stats and all that wonderful stuff. But still played nearly every game. 582 at bats, 86 runs, 35 doubles, a triple, seven bombs, 48 ribs, 31 stolen bases, and batted 273. So the stolen bases were down about like 12, which is a big difference, especially when we were drafting him, I believe, in like the 5th or 6th round last year. Hence why he's fallen literally, to the 12th now, which I think is a better price. I don't, and I was saying this last year, like I don't like drafting, stolen base specialists early in drafts, and I called it last year that it would have been a bust of a pick. Like, yeah, if he would have got 50 stolen bases, that would have been great. And with the team now, you know, having all these bats, yeah, it's great. And yes, they had the ad of Kyle Tucker, which should drive in the runs a little bit more, and put more pressure on the pitching. But the power isn't there. The ribbies aren't going to be there because where he hits in the lineup. So you're really just drafting him for runs, stolen bases, and average. And this price now at second base and the position eligibility and things like that, that is where it really makes a difference, right? You want him, you can really afford this price. It's a little bit easier and a better pill to swallow than, 5th, 6th round pick like last year. So Nico Hoerner for me, I think is a great pick in this round. Maybe not the guy I'm 100% targeting, but he's definitely up there. Like obviously it's Senga for me. Langeliers, I think, is actually a great price. And then there's other guys in this round in terms of like bats, like whether like it's small positional eligibilities, where like there's not a lot of depth, but multiple have to be done. And there's some pitchers in here too that I would like to get my hands on over him. But hey, if I was able to grab higher end players at different positions and then I just waited on second base, for instance, and I was able to scoop up Nico Hoerner, then this is the right spot to pick him. I'm definitely not mad at the price. Let's move on. Let's talk about Bichette, my bust of last year, and I was 100% right. You look at what Bo did last year, and you're just like, wow. A lot of people couldn't saw this coming. I caught a lot of hate, and this is my victory lap. Yeah, he got hurt. He only played about 81 games, but still, it was not a good 81 games. 311 at bats, 29 runs, 16 doubles, a triple, 4 bombs, 31 ribs, 5 stolen bases, and batted 225. I don't care what it is. You can hate on me all you want, but look at it. Just point blank. His pace for, we'll say 600 at bats. We'll just do it because he had 640 and 652 at bats in a single season. You know, Still wouldn't have been good. You're talking right under 60 runs. You're talking, you know, 32 doubles, which is nice if you have a points league, but 8 home runs and 62 ribs and 10 stolen bases, if that. And then the batting average pretty much stays the same. Like, yeah, nair. That's a terrible season and a bust. That's exactly what he was last year. And again, even at this pick, I don't know if I'm really ready to pick him over guys in this round. Later in this round, there's Castellanos, there's Brandon Wu, there's even Stott, for instance. Like, if I have to pick between Stott and Bo, maybe I lean Bo, but like Bo is going ahead of Stott and Castellanos and Wu and even Seth Lugo. And I'm just not ready to make that kind of commitment to a guy that I don't really feel that comfortable in at the end of the day. So with that, I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of like out. And there's even another shortstop in this round named Mr. Zach Neto that I also just kind of like better than Bo. So let's just see what happens. Obviously, I think ADP will speak for itself as we get closer. Hopefully, the community kind of comes down on Bo because I don't think he's worth the price even here. But we'll see. Let's move on. Let's talk about Stephen Kwan, another guy I'm not really thrilled about ever drafting, but a lot of people seem to like be on board, and I could kind of see the allure, but at the same time, I can't. Right? Him playing with the Guardians, it kind of brings that kind of like kind of appeal, but like at the same time, let's really break it down and talk about why he's good for real baseball and not for fantasy. 480 at bats, 83 runs, 16 doubles, 3 triples, 14 home runs, 44 ribs, 12 stolen bases, and batted 292. Look, in points leagues, this isn't as bad, but in any other kind of platform, it's not that great. And even in points leagues, it's not like he's a high tier player. The runs are nice, but 14 home runs, not impressive. The 12 stolen bases, a low, by far. The season, like if he would have cracked 20, it would have been a little bit more of a nicer pill to swallow, but still not really feeling it. Not a guy I want to roll out every day, especially when he's not contributing at position, especially when it comes to outfielder too. Like, you know, are you really going to pick him over a guy like Castellanos that had a way better statistically categories and plus can contribute and four strongly versus kind of chipping in some stolen bases at 20, kind of chipping in some home runs, and then kind of chipping in at ribs. Like, no, like he's just not good for fantasy. For real baseball, though, he's great. He's a great positional piece for the Guardians, but not for fantasy baseball. We need to get away from the Kwans. He's just not a guy I want to draft at all. Not even in the later rounds. He's more of like a waiver wire guy I wouldn't mind streaming when hot. Let's move on. Let's talk about Seth Lugo. Had a great year last year, and Seth Lugo's always kind of had it. He always has little stints of just being good, but never really was able to put it together for a full season, where like he was elite like this. And also this is the most innings he's pitched in actually his whole career. These last 2 seasons have been the most innings he's pitched in his whole career. So let's break it down. Lugo was 34, going to be 35 this year. Pitched 206 innings, managed to get 181 strikeouts, and had an ERA of 3 on the dime. Look really good. Even a whip of 108, like really good season. And you look at the previous year, it kind of supports the performance to an extent, right? Like 146 innings, 140 strikeouts, 3.57 ERA with a 1.20 whip. Like he improved in terms of, ERA and whip, and then still was able to, provide a decent strikeouts, but it was no longer at a K per nine or right under. It's now significantly under, about 25 strikes difference. But I don't mind it because of the performance. Now, do I think he's going to be able to repeat this? No. I think that the ERA will probably come up to a 3.5, and kind of have more similar stats to last year, except for the strikeouts probably coming down because he's learned that he can control, a little bit better if those changes are actually implemented. And let's look at that too. Let's look into the deeper into the underlying stats a little bit, right? Like, so, you look at that and it's like the underlying stats actually don't support it at all. His xERA was a 3.75. His average exit velocity was 88.5 miles an hour, which actually that ain't bad. But really didn't get guys to strike, which would explain the 20 Ks under. Didn't get guys to really chase, only 27%. Didn't get the whiffs, only 22.5%. Strikeouts are right on there. Didn't walk guys, but they allowed guys to barrel 8% of the time. Allowed a lot of hard contact. Was creating it about 39 point, allowing it at 39% of the time, and ground balls weren't elite either. And that's where like things are like you look at it, you go, man, like how do we handle this? And it's like, oh, you know, can he really do this again? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be this elite. Like I said, 3.5, 3.75 ERA. Even his fastball was down about a mile per hour, which could be the point of where he was successful, actually. But let's see. You know, with Seth Lugo, anything can happen. I'm not really confident in 2025. I don't think he's going to be coming anywhere near to sniffing what he did last year. Coming up next, though, we got the rest of this round. Guys like, Brandon Wu, Nick Castellanos, Hoppy, Stott, and more coming up next. Okay, we are getting back into it, and I'm pretty excited, honestly. Let's talk about my boy Brandon Wu. Got hurt a little bit last year, wasn't able to play a full season. But when he was out there, he was really good, like really good. Finished with sub-3 ERA. You know, here we go. 121 innings pitched. He started about 22 games, missed about 10. 101 strikeouts. 2.89 ERA and a .89 WHIP. Great season. Love to see obviously more strikeouts, but maybe we'll get that this year. Obviously I would like to see some health too, because even last year he didn't pitch like, as full of a season. Um, and that may be because he was called up, but it is what it is. But anyway, you know, going into year 3 in 2025, I think that we're going to see a step forward. Obviously, innings. Hopefully, he could just stay healthy. If he can pitch about buck 50 and get us a K per 9, I think that's definitely in the realm of possibility. ERA might come up a hair to like 3.20, which I'll still be okay with. The draft price actually is really, really good on him. I think everybody forgets it how good he was down the stretch, and when he was healthy, he was really efficient. Wu had underlying stats were awesome. Even his xERA was even better than that. It was at a 2.72 versus a 2.89. The X batting average was 220. Fastball velocity is still sitting at 94.8 miles an hour. Average exit velocity was not like wonderful, but again, 88.8 miles an hour. I'm not mad at, but I'd like to see a little bit lower. But it is what it is. He didn't get guys to chase this year as much, only 29.6% of the time. But again, like that can easily improve. Didn't create the whiffs as much. The strikeouts we already talked about. Didn't walk guys really at all. Didn't allow barreling, only 4.8%, and didn't allow hard contact at 35.2% of the time. So the ERA is supported by those 3 stats. Didn't walk guys, didn't allow guys to barrel as much, and didn't give up a lot of hard contact. And those are key points right there. And the average exit velocity, I think will reflect this year. I'm really excited to see what this does. Hopefully his off-speed pitches can get a little bit more movement, but fastball was really dominant this year, having great movement in the 95th percentile. Um, you know, that fastball had a batting average of 218. Even his sinker was getting hit at 234. Like those are great numbers. And his changeup was fantastic. Even though he leaned on that about 10% of the time, but still 186 batting average. Put guys away though with that second most at 19.7% at the time. He really just has a really good arsenal, about what 2, 4, 5 pitches, and he uses them pretty wholeheartedly. He does lean on the four-seam fastball and the sinker a lot, but definitely puts guys away with that changeup and sweeper the most. Sweeper being 19.7% of the time, and that sweeper 21.7% of the time. He does have some filthy stuff, and I think that we're going to build off this and see an even better pitcher in 2025. I'm a big fan, if you can't tell. We're going to talk about like Nick Castellanos now, and I'm wearing the Philly gear. But Nick Castellanos is one of my favorite Phillies. I'm hoping that he's on the team by the time that start of the season. There's rumors of him being moved. The only thing that would make this even better would him going to an even higher contender and not to some no man's land. Unless he goes to like Vegas, then that would be interesting. Because then I think that we'll take this to a whole nother level. Um, you know, he was good last year, but had a really slow start, even slower than last year. Where it was just like, man, when are you gonna just like get going, bro? And it definitely took a bit, but when he did not look back ultimately. I'm gonna pull that up in a second. So I'm working on, but like he really did have some good months. April sucked kind of bit. May had 5 home runs. June had 4 home runs, and pretty much every month since that had 4 home runs and had a really good batting average. It was really just like April and then May was kind of slow for him until he started going off in the home run category, but really took off from there. The season numbers were nice too, outside of the home run numbers. Played every game. Um, you know, 606 at bats, 80 runs, 30 doubles, four triples, 23 bombs, 86 ribs, six stolen bases, and batted 254. Batting average, I would like to see come up, or I'd like to see more power. Either whichever direction it goes, I'm kind of okay with as long as I get that. But you would see if there was less power, then you would have a better batting average. But he did hit 222 for the first 2 months of the season last year, which definitely did not help. Um, Power, I think, is going to resurge. Like I'm not really worried about that. He had 29 the year before, 23 this year. Had 34 home run seasons before. It's going to be fine. You know, the runs and ribs are all based off of where he hits in the lineup. The manager likes to get really cute sometimes and move him all up and down. And, once he's higher in the lineup where I think he should be, it's definitely going to translate to more, counting stats overall. You know, things were just a little bit different this year. And I think that I'm not scared to draft him next year, especially as my, OF3, OF4 at this point. So, we'll see. I think Castellanos is a great pick in this round. I'm definitely, going to be targeting him around this. One of my favorite bats in this round, without a doubt. But also too, like the pitching in this round is much stronger at this point. So he may not be the pick I pick, but we'll see. But let's talk about Mr. Logan O'Hoppe of the Angels. A guy that I'm really, not really thrilled to draft. I had way more upside for him, I had way more high hopes for him last year. I ranked as my catcher 10. This price is way too rich for me. That's really just what it comes down to. For a guy that I've been waiting for to do what he was doing, to do something, I'm not really excited to draft them. 479 at bats, 64 runs, 17 doubles, a triple, 20 bombs, 56 ribs, about 244. You know, I thought he had a way better hit tool. I know the power's there. It has to translate. It just has to come through. But I'm not paying this price until I see it, and I don't think we're gonna have to. I think this price is more of like the guys that just want to play the upside and kind of just like, oh crap, I got to fill out my lineup before I start picking bench guys, and that's kind of where the route they went. He's not going to be here come draft day. If you're in, a league with guys that listen to us, CBS, and things like that, we tell you to draft your catchers later, especially in single catcher leagues. He's not the guy you're going to draft. Like Langeliers is the guy in this round if you're going catcher. Not Logan O'Hoppe. Bryson Stott of the Philadelphia Phillies, another Philly. You know, Not my favorite pick here either position. Had a disappointing season in my opinion. Um, Statistically, you look at like 506 at bats, 65 runs, 19 doubles, two triples, 11 bombs, 57 ribs, 32 stolen bases, and had a batting average of 245. Last year, he batted 280 at 31 stolen bases and four more home runs. Honestly, it's really just the batting average that kind of just makes this a disappointing season. And honestly, I really hope that I really would have thought he would have got, been able to take advantage more of, you know, Trey Turner being hurt for the first half of the season, but the stupid manager just doesn't do what he was supposed to do. Anyway, Bryson Stott also struggled at good chunks of the season too. So when it comes to him, I'm kind of more on like the outside looking in. I really don't want him on my team unless it's like a real value. Like I have Stott ranked at 16th at second base, and I don't see me moving on that. He's not going to move up in front of like guys like Matt McClain, Isaac Paredes, Luis Arias, Spencer Steer, Chirang, and things like that. And those are guys directly in front of him. Stott's got to do it again for me. He's got to get the batting average up. He's got to earn himself a higher spot in the rotation and in the batting order. And then we can talk about other than that, he's going to be in no man's land hitting towards the lower end of it. And it's not going to equal, great fantasy production. So about this last guy here, same team. Not same team. Same team as Logan O'Hoppe. That's Zach Neto. The Angels. I like this kid. I really do. Sophomore season. And I would say almost his true rookie year. 542 at bats, 70 runs, 34 doubles, a triple, 23 bombs, 77 ribs, 30 stolen bases, and batted 249. I kind of saw this coming. I told you guys to kind of pick him up earlier in the year. I kind of knew it was coming down the pipelines, and you know this was coming. He's really good, in all honesty. Like, I am a fan. I was excited when he was getting the call. I'm excited now to see that, this first full year we saw something special from him, the 30 stolen bases and 23 bombs. You know, these are all signs of a good step forward. I think 2025 might be the year where we're like, wow, this kid might be a real steal this year. Like, you look at his minor league career and track record, like in 2022, which is his last full season in the minors. Um, it just let's put it this way. Let me look at the totals. He had he really hasn't played much, actually. You look at it in the minors, he pretty much got promoted almost instantly. He was drafted in 22, played 22, but barely. And 23 pretty much was up. 23 he played a grand total of 11 games and then was up. It just shows how good he is. His college stats were great. 199 at bats. He had 15 home runs and 19 stolen bases and batted 407. Obviously, that's ridiculous, but that ain't gonna translate. But this kid truly does have some special talent. I think that we're gonna be people are gonna be overlooking him, and he's gonna be a guy we're gonna be targeting. This is a great price, and I think he's gonna fall. I don't think he's gonna rise. So he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be forgotten about. Keep him in the back of your head. He's gonna be a special player for you in 2025. I just have that feeling. Guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do whatever you can to share this show. I'm super excited to that we're getting closer to opening day. Stick with us. I promise we're gonna help you win your leagues. With that being said, guys, check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB, where all your greatest MLB coverage is there. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.